You're a member of one of those relatively rare clubs of cities that have more jobs than people. And my question is, does that produce every day an exceptionally high level of congestion, people trying to get into the jobs? And when coupled with your staggering 1% poverty rate, would that suggest that there isn't enough housing affordable to the people who have a lot of the jobs? And is there any push to do anything about that?
I'm Cindy Green, a Lenexa City Council member, and I'll speak on that question. We actually are surrounded by highways, so we are very fortunate, and that helped build some of our business community. We have 435 and I-35, K7, K10 that lead in there. So we do have one congested area where all three of those highways converge in one area, but for the most part, it is not a major problem. And in regards to housing, my daytime job is with the Real Estate Association, so I can speak on that behalf. We actually have a wide variety of housing. I've actually lived in 4 different homes in Lenexa, and that's one of the beautiful parts about Lenexa. You can buy your starter home there and work your way all up into $1 million home. I've not hit that level yet, so I'm hopefully not in my last house in Lenexa, but we really do have a good variety of housing stock within our community.
I like Lenexa too. What a great story to tell. I'm real interested in your application. You talk about your stream teams. That sounds really exciting. And how do you, can you tell me a little bit more about that and how you get people to volunteer?
I'm Sheila Shockey, and I'm a business owner as well as a resident in Lenexa. And I was involved in the original concept of Rain to Recreation, and it's really just grown from there. A lot of different reasons. City Council commitment to the program is number one, and then we have such a number of people who wish to volunteer in our community, including the youth in our community. So Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts are the major volunteers with our stream team, and the City Council does have staff people who do organize that and work with volunteers, and so that's really made it grow and blossom and become very, very effective in our community.
Christine?
Thank you. I also like Lenexa, but I have a feeling I'm not going to like you at 2 in the morning when I cannot get that out of my question for you is around your Vision 2020 process. You particularly talked about the importance of bringing East and West together. Could you just talk a little bit more about how that process assured that you had the East and West voices together?
I will speak on that. I actually chaired the event, and I was a community volunteer at the time and not on council. And we actually weren't growing that far in the West when we first started that in '96. But we knew that was our future growth potential, so we came up with a plan the group did called the City Center area, which would have been the center of where our city was, and the plan was there to create a civic community. So now that is all in the works now. We actually have some building going on in that area, but that was what our thought was clear back in the 90s, that as we grew further west, we didn't want this divide. And then when they got together with Vision 2030 that we just went through a few years ago, they actually went out there and actively recruited members of the city that lived out there to be on the committee, so we weren't just the eastern side. And then even surprisingly, a lot of those folks that live out west actually lived in the eastern part of the community and have grown into houses out there in that community. So we've really worked well with bringing people together when we get our groups together to not create that. Plus the mayor used to slap our hands if we used the words east and west in Lenexa.
You've heard it before, but yes, I like Lenexa. But one day a year, and that day is coming up July 20th. That's the midnight bike ride, which I participated in this year. And I'm pretty sold on that. My question, given the geographic layout of the city, yes, there are challenges to not only community and neighborhood involvement, but also civic and individual involvement. What efforts have you taken to assure that individuals across the, I can use this term you did, Hershey Water Construction, that everyone has the equal opportunity to participate?
My name is Irma Salazar Robinson, and I'm a resident. And actually, I am a city girl, born and raised in inner city Kansas City. And if you would have told me 20 years ago that I would be living in a suburb, I would have said you were crazy. but my life's journey brought me to Lenexa 5 years ago, and so my experience with Lenexa has always been this great. It's true. We celebrate everything, and so these festivals are really great in getting all these different people together, and it's a wonderful way because we welcome everyone. And my kids are thriving in the school, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. I'm safe, I feel safe, and my children are doing well in that community. So.
Thank you. I'd be remiss if I didn't give a 2-finger salute, a 3-finger salute to the Cub Scout and Boy Scout. Salute. And Girl Scouts, I don't know your salute.
Yeah, thanks on Lenexa. You know, I always associated Lenexa with spinach and bonnet strings with potatoes. Is that right? Someone told me the potato king of Kansas lived in Bonner Springs, and the spinach king lived in Lenexa. Well, you all are in 3 different school districts for your children: Olathe, DeSoto, and does that really work for you?
Oh, you bet it does. I'm Craig Denny, and I've been for the last 14 years, and probably for 2 more, on the Shawnee Mission School Board. One of the things that I think helps Lenexa is that until just a few years ago, we didn't have a high school in Lenexa. We're part of 3 different school districts, but the physical building, until St. James Academy came along, wasn't located there. But what that does do is it creates, I think, a sense of community around Lenexa, since we didn't have the alternative high school to draw every single resident toward it. And I think that it is an interesting issue to have. We have some school districts that are funded at a little higher level than others, but by and large, we all work together, and I think our kids all benefit from the educational experience they get.
Thank you, Charles.
I noticed in reading the material that you've had, I think, several successful tax elections. Could you comment on why they were successful and why they passed by such a large margin?
I will speak on that. I think it was successful because our citizens understand the value of how we spend our money. They don't just see the council out there just willy-nilly spending it. It was important for them to have the Rain to Recreation program. And they also knew, people always say a lot of times, you put a new tax out there, it never goes away. Well, believe it or not, we did a 5-year commitment, renewed it for 5, and it is actually going away. The most current sales tax that we passed, it was important to them. They wanted roads improved. They wanted our parks improved. They want this new civic center in our new central city part of the city. So they understand that we value how to spend our tax dollars, and they're willing to put that extra dime out there to help us.
I have 1 minute, but I'm interested in I believe it's the 3rd grade that learns about your own city government. You know, I have a granddaughter that's going to the 4th grade, and she studied the state history and how it was, but the city government is so important to children. So whose idea was that, and how do you implement that?
Actually, that started about 13 years ago, and city staff who also were parents got to the point where they realized, you know, when kids are learning about city government, they're not learning about their own city here in Lenexa, and what a missed opportunity. So they went to the city manager, city administrator at the time, and we took this to the school district, and they thought this was a great program, great idea. So the 2 groups worked together. This included then parents in the school district, and we had people from the Historical Society work together to create this program. It fit the curriculum standards. And it's a very interactive and educational, fun program so that the children have fun learning, and it's something that they can remember then, because they get to sit at the council dais and they get to pretend like they're the mayor and the city council members. They get to make decisions. They get Lenexa bucks to spend on funding programs and learn by doing.
And I'll just add that the Shawnee Mission District took this on and made it district-wide, and other districts have copied the same.